Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Here we are again. Same place.
Yeah.
It is a different day.
It is.
And yesterday was a nice day. Just couldn't make it out to relish the sun, and today has been like wicked cold again. But inside it's warm, and in the heart it's warm. And now we're going to read from the Bhagavatam.
Well, yesterday we were at a funeral.
Yes, but still, there's time. We weren't there all day and all night.
Okay, yeah, true.
Okay.
Alright, it's Canto 3, Chapter 32, Text 8. Entanglement in fruitive activities.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Those in sync.
In the sync, right?
Text 8. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha expansion of the personality of Godhead remain within this material world until the end of 2 Paridas, when Lord Brahma also dies. One dissolution is at the end of Brahma's day, and one is at the end of Brahma's life. Brahma dies at the end of 2 Paradas, at which time the entire material universe is dissolved. Persons who are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, do not directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha. They remain within this universe on Satyaloka or other higher planets until the end of the life of Brahma. Then with Brahma they are elevated to the spiritual kingdom. That's interesting, isn't it? That when they die they go back to Godhead. Well, I don't remember reading that. Do you?
I don't, but we are now. Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of those things like, I mean, these are certain persons. These are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha expansion of the personality of Godhead. Probably quite high level. So at the end of this life, they go back to Satyaloka, where Lord Brahma is, and they stay there for the entire life of Lord Brahma, which is a long time. And then, I guess the point that then they're elevated to the spiritual kingdom. Often what I've understood is, of course, from the level of Brahma, you can go back to the spiritual world. So, but generally, my understanding is, you leave the spiritual world, and first entry into the material world, you take birth as a Brahma. Then, from there, it's a gradual degradation down to basically fish life, aquatics, and then you build your way back up again. Yeah. The understanding is that it's quite difficult to go back to the spiritual world from the level of Brahma, although Lord Brahma is the most spiritually, most elevated, or the highest level of elevation in the material world. Let's read on.
Please.
The words parasya parachintakaha mean always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or being always Krishna conscious. When we speak of Krishna, this refers to the complete category of Vishnu Tattva. Krishna includes the 3 Purusha incarnations, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, as well as all the incarnations taken together. That is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ramadi Murti Shu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. Lord Krishna is perpetually situated with his many expansions, such as Ram, Nrsimha, Vamana, Madhusudan, Vishnu, and Narayan. He exists with all his plenary portions, and the portions of his plenary portions, and each of them is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Parasya Parachintakaha mean that those who are fully Krishna conscious Such persons enter directly into the kingdom of God. Okay. The Vaikuntha planets. Or if they are worshippers of the plenary portion Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, they remain within this universe until its dissolution, and after that they enter. Okay, that made a little bit more sense for me. So, my understanding of this is that just as someone worship, Antakale chamami vasmaran makve kale vanam, whatever one remembers at the time of death, that state he will attain. So, if someone is a worshiper of Krishna, then they go back to be with Krishna. Krishna guarantees this in the Gita. But we also understand that one doesn't take birth directly in the spiritual world. The next birth that would be like a birth in the spiritual world would be taken in Bhoma Vrindavan, which means the Vrindavan here on earth, in a universe where Krishna has personally appeared in that Bhoma Vrindavan. Like that. And you have your, let's say, last life in the material world, and it's debatable whether it's the material world because the Dham is also the spiritual world, but it's kind of a...
And Krishna's there personally.
And Krishna's there personally, but it's still a certain level of tatashta, neither here nor there. So, then, as long as you complete what you're supposed to complete at the end of that life, then you go back to Goloka, to the spiritual world. So in this situation, what I'm understanding is that someone who's been a profound worshipper of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Hiranyagarbha, then at the end of this life, he doesn't go back directly to Vaikuntha, but he goes to Brahmaloka, to Satyaloka with Lord Brahma, and he lives for an entirety of that time of the life of Lord Brahma. Then he goes back at the end. So it obviously must correlate with the fact that Lord Brahma will also be going back at the end of that life. So it's sort of like, in the way that we take our birth in Bhoma Vrindavan at some stage, probably after another 10 million births. But then we would go back to the spiritual world. Does that make sense to you? Is that how you understood it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Just see. In sync.
In sync.
In sync.
Alright, text 9. After experiencing the inhabitable time of the three modes of material nature, known as two paradas, Lord Brahma closes the material universe, which is covered by layers of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, ego, intelligence. Oh, I don't say intelligence, does it? I'm sorry.
It says etc.
Sorry,
your intelligence.
I was getting too clever.
Yeah, over-intelligent.
It goes back to Godhead. Purport. The word, Avyakritam is very significant in this verse. The same meaning is stated in Bhagavad Gita in the word Sanatan. This material world is Vyakrita, or subject to change, and it finally dissolves. But after the dissolution of this material world, the manifestation of the spiritual world, the Sanatan Dham, remains. That spiritual sky is called Avyakrita, that which does not change. And there, the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. When, after ruling over the material universe under the influence of the time element, Lord Brahma desires to dissolve it and enter into the kingdom of God, others then enter with him. So it's like what you were saying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That those that are with Lord Brahma are on a certain level, and after business has been done, they get to go back with him.
Yeah, what it says here, I mean, it definitely says here, making it sound like, in general, not specific, but in general, Lord Brahma desires to dissolve and go back to the kingdom of God. And then others enter with him. But I guess, although it's being stated in a general way, I think it's still meant to be more specific to that Brahma. Because my understanding is, like I said earlier, that from Brahma you normally would go down into the material, different bodies. So we'll have to find that somewhere in the Bhagavatam, wherever it's mentioned like that. But that's been my understanding. Yours as well?
Yes, but then my understanding is if I, in this body that I'm now, and I get so focused and fixed on this in my meditation and the form that is being said here, in the next life I can go to Lord Brahma's planet, Satyaloka, and then that is a 80% complete or 85, and then that planet, whatever they're doing on that planet to then increase my purification and my focus on the Supreme Lord, which means I just have like 10% left done and I'm eligible to go back.
Go back to where?
To Godhead. And that's a easier platform to go back from than where I am now.
Interesting. Yeah, because my understanding is that, and it's all fine and well that we're quoting these understandings. Of course, what you've just said is more or less kind of explained here, but my understanding is that that's for the path of someone who's a, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu worshipper, of which Prabhupada is mentioned in the purport that there are many different types of incarnations, So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna, but we focus on Krishna, which means our destination will be different from that destination, which means I've always understood that actually it's easiest to make your way back to Godhead from the earthly plane, because the enjoyments and pleasures in the heavenly spheres is so great that it's very hard to give those up. And the suffering that's going on in the hellish planets is so great that it's hard to think about Krishna and going back to Godhead. So you just you're both places you're burning karma, heavenly spheres and hellish spheres, and in between you're creating it and burning it simultaneously. But here, and especially in the age that we're in this Kali Yuga, because of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya comes because Krishna personally came previously in Dwapara Yuga, then from here it's easier to go back to the spiritual world. But the caveat is that you go back first to a universe where Boma Vrindavan is there with Krishna, and then you go back. So I'm confused by hearing you say that you've understood you'll go to Satyaloka.
No, not that. No, not as a norm. As in, if that I'm inclined that way, can become.
Oh, okay.
There's different types of transcendentalists. So.
Of course, perfect. Yes, now
like
I
that.
get it.
So, like if you read Radhanath Maharaj's book Journey Home, he talks about so many different worshippers of the absolute truth.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant. No, not as a norm.
Not as like yourself specifically.
I'd rather not. Nothing against Lord Brahma, but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
but yeah, like that. So I'm fixed in that way, meditating that way, and and I'm more than happy to go back to Satyaloka, and then from there continuing that meditation and worship of the Lord, don't have that much percentage left for perfection, and then I go back. Point being that those people, as you said as well, that are in such a loka, they're not your ordinary folk who then just come trickling down, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the ones that Prabhupada's talking about. Because like you said, yeah, you come into the, you're Brahma and then you fall down but yeah. Well, that's all I've got to say.
Okay, if you have any thoughts, you can share it. Should we read one more?
Okay.
All right, number 10.
Number 10 down East Street.
The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises, control of the mind, reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma. And therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the Supreme, who is the Supreme Brahman. Such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God.
Whoa. If only that had been said earlier. Because that explains it, didn't it?
What is it? Explain what you're understanding.
Well, it says here that they enter into the body of Lord Brahma,
okay, yeah.
And then that's when he goes back, they go back, because they're already merged. Oh dear. The importance of just reading.
Yeah, but still, for me, that's not such a big thing. It's the fact that Lord Brahma is going back, which for me, he's going that way, and I've always understood that, from Brahma, it's going that way. Of course, it is a two-way street, but the predominance is that it goes down, not goes back. But anyway, let's read. By perfecting their yogic practice, yogis can reach the highest planet, Brahma Loka or Satya Loka, and after giving up their material bodies, they can enter into the body of Lord Brahma. Because they are not directly devotees of the Lord, they cannot get liberation directly. Okay. They have to wait until Brahma is liberated, and only then, along with Brahma, are they also liberated. It is clear that as long as a living entity is a worshipper of a particular demigod, his consciousness is absorbed in thoughts of that demigod, and therefore he cannot get direct liberation or entrance into the kingdom of God, nor can he merge into the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such yogis or demigod worshippers are subjected to the chance of taking birth again when there is again creation. Okay. So, it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to explain it in more depth, but yeah, how exactly is it that they merge into the body of Brahma?
When they die.
Yeah, but he's not dead.
No, but when Krishna's on the battlefield and he kills all these demons, then it says in Krishna Leela...
They merge into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good, but him is God. He's the Supreme Brahman. So they merge into the Supreme Brahman. They merge into the power of Brahma. But now we're talking about Brahma, who is a jiva. He's not God.
But he must be given that special facility.
Capacity or ability.
Yeah, because he's not an ordinary jiva, is he?
No, he's a jiva, but he's the most elevated jiva. That's for sure.
Created being.
Born directly from the lotus navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Yes, he's very special. No doubt.
That's my understanding.
Okay, we're always open to hearing some comments, questions, concerns.
Complaints.
No complaints, please.
Constructive.
Constructive criticism is always welcome. Okay, so thank you all very much. I think we'll conclude there, and we'll pick up with text 11 next time. So thank you all very much. Please remember to like,
comment,
subscribe,
and share. And chant Hare Krishna.
Chant Hare Krishna.
And read the Bhagavatam.
Read the Bhagavatam.
And offer your food to Krishna.
Offer your food to
and be happy.
Be happy. Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.